in. Huge news out of Washington as former Vice President Joe Biden makes history with his choice of a running mate. Why he says he chose the right partner for our times.
Breaking news from the Big Ten as all fall sports are postponed. Jim Donovan joins us with more on the decision. Plus, he'll tell us when we might see the Buckeyes back on the field.
Whatever is going on in the community will be reflected in your school.
Masks, distancing, learning. Governor Mike DeWine talks about going back to school safely and the prevalence of the virus among kids.
Children do get COVID. They are not immune from COVID. And when you have COVID, you can spread COVID.
Age, race, underlying conditions. Which children are getting sick and which age group is most likely to spread it?
If you don't do therapies for even a few weeks, you lose that skill, and these kids don't get it back easily, if ever.
More than education. How the loss of school and therapy is impacting children with special needs and some help for parents.
And trouble for the Tribe. Terry Francona lays out the discipline for the players who broke COVID rules, putting their teammates at risk. And he is ready to defend his belt. I talked to the champ, Stipe Miocic, about how he's feeling ahead of this weekend's championship fight. What's new starts now.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
And a very happy Tuesday afternoon to you, Northeast Ohio. Thank you so much for choosing What's New. Look who is back.
Yep.
My co-host Betsy Kling is back from a long but much-deserved vacation. We missed you around here. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. It was kind of two vacations lumped into one. So there was one canceled with the pandemic and all that stuff. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody else is dealing with it, too.
Yeah, well, 1 week is never enough. 2 weeks is always just right. Well, it's great to have you back, Betsy. A lot going on today.
So much going on. We have tons to talk about today. And we're going to start, of course, with an historic announcement from the political world. Joe Biden has chosen his running mate, and it is Kamala Harris.
Russ Mitchell is here with more on the former vice president's selection. Russ, I guess if anyone knows what makes a good vice president, it would be Joe Biden.
8 years in that spot, so perhaps so. Jay and Betsy, good afternoon. This happened in the past hour. Kamala Harris becomes Joe Biden's running mate. Again, historic, not necessarily surprising. That announcement came via Twitter, with the former vice president calling Harris a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants, end quote there. Kamala Harris is 55 years old. She is the daughter of immigrants. Her mother is from what was then known as Madras, India. Her father is from Jamaica. If elected, she would become the first black and first Asian VP in American history. She is the only black woman in the U.S. Senate, elected back in 2016 after serving as California's Attorney General. And before that, she was San Francisco's Attorney General. You may recall Harris and Biden clashed pretty bitterly in the primary season when they were both running for president, but Harris has supported him since she dropped out of the race. She also worked very closely with Biden's late son, Beau, when he was Delaware's Attorney General. Harris says the two talked every day, sometimes multiple times a day. But then once again, Betsy, Kamala Harris, senator from California, VP Joe Biden, former VP Joe Biden's picked to be his running mate in the election in November. Harris, also Howard University graduate, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority member. All those things, we'll be hearing much more about her, of course, in the next few hours.
Well, it's almost like we've kind of gotten on the on-ramp now, and we're hitting the highway to November and Election Day, so things are going to amp up from here.
It is definitely on. The Democratic convention is next week, so yeah, a lot of stuff's going to happen fast and furious.
All right, Russ, thanks. We'll check in again with you pretty soon. Jay?
All right, now on to another breaking news story. The presidents of the NCAA's Big Ten schools have voted to postpone the 2020 football season and all fall sports. The conference is, however, hopeful that they might be able to play football in the spring. We'll see what that brings. Jim Donovan joins us now with the very latest details on this heartbreaking decision for many student athletes. Jimmy, I know they were looking forward to playing this fall, but that now will not happen.
And there was a great movement in the middle of the day yesterday after the initial announcement seemed to be leaking out that we were going to go down this road of a full fall postponement of football and other sports. The athletes, the coaches, even some of the ADs, and certainly the University of Nebraska were saying, no, you can't do this. But they did it. The university presidents voted today, and they have postponed football and all four fall sports across the Big Ten landscape. What did it? It was a total medical decision. The schools themselves had medical experts advising them, but the Big Ten also had a task force in place about infectious diseases and another task force advising them on coronavirus. The answers they kept getting back over the weekend, and more so yesterday and today, they were just too alarming to have fall sports coming up. Could they control the virus on campus? They said they didn't have any specific way of doing that. Could they test like the NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball? The answer was no. But the big thing we're hearing about is liability, and that's what frightened these university presidents. Short-term liability, long-term liability, heart and lung issues if an athlete came down with coronavirus. What kind of life would they have? And at that point, they said, we're out for the fall.
You look at this decision, we just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty at this point in time in our country, and to encourage our student athletes to participate in fall sports. And I take this responsibility seriously. So, an hour after Kevin Warren, the Big Ten commissioner, made that announcement, the Pac-12 made the same announcement. They have canceled football and all of their fall sports. So they fell in line with the Big Ten. The other three Power 5 conferences are still on the fence right now. The Big 12 university presidents are going to meet later on tonight. The ACC's medical director came out early this morning and said, the data we're getting back, we think we can play. The SEC has always maintained they can play, but we'll wait and see on that. Jay, the other thing is spring football. And what I picked up from Kevin Warren, and I know it's an emotional day for him to have to cancel football or postpone it and try and push it to the spring. But they have no formal plan for spring football. But Jay, think about this right now. The only way that could happen and be productive is if the NFL enters in and pushes their calendar and takes the NFL draft away from late April and pushes it perhaps to late May or certainly June or maybe even early July. Because if that doesn't happen, what great player in college football who has an NFL hope and a desire to play in the NFL is going to play a spring season? It really could become an intramural sport, I think, if they went to the spring, if the NFL doesn't help out.
Yeah, and obviously, Jimmy, that could impact Cleveland because, as we know, the NFL draft is slated to be in Cleveland next spring. Whether or not that happens April, May, June, as you said. And here's another point that is very interesting to think about, Jimmy. If they do play spring football and say it starts in March and it runs all the way through June, if there are any seniors that play, and I imagine that there would be a number that would, imagine finishing your college season in June and then you have to report to your NFL training camp a month later in July. Think of the wear and tear on the body for these young men. It could be crazy.
Absolutely. A definite physical toll and maybe a physical impossibility with the way things are going. The other thing, Jay, is, again, I just don't see the NFL moving their calendar that much because I think they would almost really have to think about doing that. And I think the NFL is its own power, and they think, you know what, our way is the right way and the only way.
Yep, they operate independently of anybody else. Jimmy, thank you very much. We'll see you again in the next half hour.
Okay.
Well, now on your feed at 5, Ohio's newest COVID-19 numbers in the last 24 hours are a notable increase. We now have 1,095 new cases. That's up from 883 just yesterday and much closer to our 21-day average of 1,220 cases.
Yeah, Betsy, the lone positive number today of our top 4 indicators is our positivity rate. The state reporting a dip below the WHO's recommended threshold of 5%. As only 4.5% of the tests given in the state of Ohio came back positive. That is the lowest positivity rate for Ohio in more than 7 weeks, and that is one of the big indicators. But the other big indicators, not such good news there. Hospitalizations jumped by 21 over the last 24 hours, and although there are still under 1,000 patients statewide, we are now creeping back close to that number. And deaths, after a 2-day total of 5, we see a big increase all the way up to 35 deaths now reported in the state of Ohio in the last 24-hour reporting period.
Well, and of course, that would bring up the big conversation about education. Of course, should they stay or should they go? Parents are stuck in the middle of what the state says, what the county reports, and what plan their school district will be using this school year. Now, we know some districts have chosen to go remote for fall classes already, and others are going to start with a hybrid model. But Governor Mike DeWine said today that most Ohio students will be returning to the classroom in person this year. The question now is when and how to do it safely. Our Laura Queso, of course, is joining us now to help break it down. And Laura, the governor certainly had quite a lot to say about this and some guests he brought along.
Yeah, he did. He brought in 3 doctors from the state. In fact, all 3 of them said they support in-person learning, and it's up to each community to look at whether or not it can be done safely. So some takeaways. Children can get coronavirus, and doctors say it's not rare for children to get it. However, 90% do well. Doctors say just a small fraction, about 10%, get sick. Some do need to be in the hospital. Some become critically ill and end up in the ICU. Doctors say there are several things students and staff can do to keep schools open and safe. These are in order of importance. First, wear masks. This goes for students K through 12 and all adults at each school. Practice social distancing. 6 feet is best, but the doctor who's talked about this said 3 feet is okay too, especially when you're talking about kids in a classroom. Practice good hand hygiene, keep surfaces clean, and also ventilation. Dr. Manning says open a window if possible, but a reminder, there is no greater ventilation than being outside. The governor says what we are doing right now outside of school sets us up for a successful year for our children in the classroom.
For kids who are starting online, but the school is looking forward and saying, hey, maybe after a while we'll be in a position where we think we can have kids in school. Again, what we do in that community is going to determine whether that opportunity is there for our kids and our grandkids and our neighbors' kids.
The governor said as of right now, 325 school districts in the state are planning to return to the classroom full time. That's about 600,000 public school students, or 38%. Now, stay with me here. About 26% will have full-time remote learning. Again, it is up to each local school district to decide what is best for them. One other note here to point out, older teenagers, 17 years old to be specific, those are the kids who are testing positive the most of all children tested so far. Now, doctors believe this is because those older teens are off, they're driving, and they're really more active at this point, Betsy.
Well, I can tell you, Laura, from a parent's perspective, I have felt like I have been in a washing machine. Send them, keep them, send them, keep them. It is exhausting. And at this point, everybody's just kind of throwing their hands up like, what are we going to do? So it's go time. We have to make these decisions now. So hold on, folks. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. Thanks, Laura. We'll see you again coming up at 6 on What Matters Most.
Sure.
If you don't do therapies for even a few weeks, you lose that skill, and these kids don't get it back easily.
Oh, so many kids with special needs are falling behind because of the pandemic. An NBC correspondent opens up about the struggles he and his wife are facing. And we will also have resources to help many local families also dealing with the same problems.
Plus, they might be fun, but those electric scooters that you see all over downtown, they are landing more people in the hospitals. We're going to break down the alarming statistics. We'll do that ahead in Clicking in Cleveland.
Oh, and they are so fun, especially when the weather is so nice out there. And the weather's been great. Summer weather continues, so let's get in with Matt and see what's coming up in the forecast.
Hi there, Betsy. Welcome back. It's going to be a very summer-like week in front of us. Temperature is going to be above average, but then there's some fall-like air looming at the end of the 7-day. We'll let you know exactly how cool we're thinking it's going to get in the forecast.
Well, the COVID-19 pandemic is hitting everyone hard, but it's been especially hard on kids with special needs. Today, NBC's Richard Engel opened up about the challenges he and his wife are facing with their 5-year-old son, Henry. Henry has a severe genetic neurological disorder. He doesn't speak, he doesn't walk, and he can't feed himself. And Engel says it's getting worse during the pandemic. He's shaking more and he gets upset more often, partly because he can't get to therapy.
We have to do frequent therapies to keep Henry's body functioning, to keep it together. If we didn't do the therapies, his hips would dislocate, he could get scoliosis.
It took over, I'd say, a year and a half for him to learn to sit up on his own. So that's an idea of how long it takes.
And there are many families who are dealing with this same type of situation. Missing out on therapy can have a big impact on kids. Now, they don't get their skills back easily, if ever at all. Now, we know that there are many of you dealing with the same struggles. So tonight, our Tiffany Tarpley found some resources to help families with special needs children to help them get through this difficult time.
Eve has Down syndrome and, like other students with special needs, has an individualized education plan. She also has a vision impairment, which is one of the reasons it's been difficult for her to stay focused. Eve receives therapy online, which also includes life skills, but it's not the same as in-person instruction.
But I've definitely seen some regression in her with some of her skills, and definitely like a loss of interest in school.
UH Rainbow Babies and Children's Hospital child neurologist Dr. Max Wisnitzer says while in-person therapies are much better, they can still be done at a distance.
I would argue that if the therapist trains the parent on what strategies have to be used for that therapy session, you can be quite successful.
Dr. Wisnitzer has 6 ways to create that success for all students, but especially for those with educational needs. Act as if they are going to school. Get up at the normal time. Get dressed. Structure, routine, and consistency are all important. Same time, same location. Provide incentives for performance. Put work into smaller units of time so they can stay focused. Minimize distractions. And parents, don't hover. Give them the appropriate encouragement. And the doctor I spoke with says chad.org, that's with 2 Ds, is a great resource for parents who have children with educational needs. Tiffany Tarpley, 3 News.
And again, that's Chad, CHADD.org. And we're going to have all of these resources available also for you on WKYC.com. And Jay, this kind of leads right back to that education component too, because so many kids, especially the special needs kids, are getting specialized individual attention at school. Now they're not at school, they're not getting that, and mom and dad can't always fill the void.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and you're trying to weigh the benefits versus the risks, and that's really what society is doing right now. The Big Ten just did that. All of our local school districts are doing that, trying to weigh the benefits of having kids in school learn versus the risks of sending them to school and the possibility of catching and transmitting COVID-19. It is the dilemma of 2020, and it's not getting any easier for these folks to make decisions.
It is not. And of course, the schools, in, out, depending on the model that they're using, it's very frustrating, obviously. So hang in there, moms and dads. We know we're with you. I mean, we're both parents, you know, and another parent who's kind of our shining star at this point, of course, Matt Wentz, who's getting ready to welcome number 3 here in the next week or so. And please, Matt, please tell Stephanie thank you for not having the baby while I was on vacation. Really appreciate that.
Honey, she's officially back. Go ahead. I know, Betsy, this has been really tough on her. I mean, a couple times we just had to say, you know what, not now. So
hold your breath. Hold your breath.
Definitely good to have you back. That's it. Jay, do you have any baby-related weather words today?
You know, I should have thought more about it and come up with a baby-related word, but the word of the day for me is historic. Obviously, with the vice presidential pick of Joe Biden, of Kamala Harris, and of course the Big Ten, no football. So it's a historic time. Work that into your forecast, please.
All right, you got it. Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, outside right now, it's getting a little bit better up towards the lakeshore, but it's still another muggy summer day. You can see high temperatures warmest down towards the south. We're currently sitting in the mid and even some upper 80s out there. Overnight tonight, we're going to deal with muggy conditions that start to give way to less humid conditions as a cold front moves through, but right now it continues to be thick outside. The big picture, we've got mainly clear skies. There are a couple high clouds floating by. But remember yesterday that derecho that caused over 700 wind damage reports. They had winds over 100 miles per hour in portions of the plains. That derecho and the energy from that all the way down in the Gulf of Mexico now. And how does that impact our forecasts? Well, if you were watching last week, it looked like today was going to be a pretty stormy day. We've got the atmosphere in place, but that Gulf of Mexico air loves to flow up and support thunderstorms this time of year. As the derecho went down to the south, it kind of squashes that. So you look at what we're left with. There's not much around this front right now. It's a very quiet cold front, and as that continues to slide down to the south, we're going to enjoy a quiet evening rather than a loud evening. Your National Design Mart hour-by-hour forecast, maybe a shower pop-in. I've seen a couple out over the lake, but that was a little bit earlier. I really don't think that's going to happen. Otherwise, we're dry. Tomorrow is going to be a beautiful day. We're going to see drier, more comfortable conditions by the hour. We'll have the wind coming out of the north, so that'll bring in some drier air as well. High temperatures with some sunshine up into the 80s, and then eventually we'll start to bring back that humidity. Speaking of humidity, I don't think it'll trigger any more historic derechos around here, but we are going to have the thick air around here back on Monday. And again, next week, we have big changes with that fall-like air we've been highlighting. So let's put it all together for you with your Universal Windows Direct 7-day forecast. We're climbing the temperatures up near 90 once again by Saturday. That does come with some humidity. Best chance of storms is on Sunday, and then fall-like air on its way next week. We'll be right back with more What's New and Clicking in Cleveland up next.
Yes, I am.
It is time right now to see what's clicking in Cleveland. And for that, we bring in our digital anchor, Stephanie Haney. Stephanie, a very good Tuesday afternoon to you. Hope you're well.
Thanks, Jay. You as well. Now, the rumblings that we've heard are true. Former Ohio Republican Governor John Kasich will be speaking at the Democratic National Convention on Monday. Now, because he's a Republican, it's surprising to some that he would speak in support of presumptive Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. But remember, he ran against President Donald Trump for the Republican ticket in 2016 and did not support him when he dropped out of that race. Kasich will be joined by Senator Bernie Sanders and former First Lady Michelle Obama, both also speaking on Monday. You can see more of that lineup on WKYC.com. Now, we know that we've had a hard time getting toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and now people are having a hard time getting pop. Yes, it's true, you did not imagine it. There is a shortage. Dr. Pepper tweeted today that they know you're having a hard time finding flavors, and it's happening for other pop companies too. This is because of the pandemic affecting the supply of artificial sweeteners and a shortage of aluminum, with everyone staying in and buying up pop cans. But the manufacturer of these cans says that it is upping manufacturing, so don't worry, they are working on it. And you might not need a study to tell you this, but there's a new study that says so anyway. Scooters are dangerous, and pretty dangerous, it turns out. The Journal of the American Medical Association Surgery Department studied emergency room visits for scooter-related injuries from 2014 to 2018, and over that time, the study found overall scooter injuries increased by 222%. E-scooters are even worse. The rate of those injuries nearly tripled, with most injuries happening to the head and limbs. Now, Dr. Tom Waters of the Cleveland Clinic has some tips to stay safe. He says, know the rules of the road, make sure your path is clear, and watch for traffic and pedestrians. And here's the big one. He says he does not recommend using a scooter while you are under the influence, Jay. So, no scooting and drinking. That's the takeaway here.
Well, hello. This is a true story. We were in Indianapolis last year ahead of the Browns-Colts preseason game, and it was later in the evening. We were walking back to the hotel after dinner. We saw a group of about 4 or 5 young ladies who were apparently out having some pops, if you know what I mean, and 2 of them ran into a parked car at the same time. And we just sort of looked at it like, what's going on? And come to find out, they were overserved. It's not a good idea to do anything under the influence that requires coordination.
It's not a good idea, especially if you're not super coordinated in general. I feel like if I were stone sober on a scooter, I'd probably be hitting that parked car too, I'm not going to lie. So
all right.
We can't assume anything, I guess.
Please use proper discretion. Stephanie, thanks. Those numbers, they are alarming. All right, still ahead on What's New. As mentioned, it is an historic day as former Vice President Joe Biden names Kamala Harris as his vice presidential running mate. We'll have all the reaction from social media coming up on that.
And you're going to like this one. Quarantine buddies. Who do you want? Your significant other or your pet? There's actually been a study done on this.
I can't have both?
And, yeah, well, we're going to find out the answer. I think you might be surprised, and some people may not be as surprised, certainly.
One, two, three, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Still looking.
And now, live from WKYC Studios, this is What's New.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to What's New here at 5:30. I'm Betsy Kling, back in the studio with my co-host Jay Crawford.
Are you thrilled to be back? You have to be.
Yeah.
2 weeks is a long time.
Well, I haven't worn makeup or even gotten dressed in anything other than the mom uniform.
Right.
For, I don't know, more than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So the makeup part was probably the hardest.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you back.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I know it's been only 2 weeks, but there were times where it felt like it had been a month. I'm just saying. I don't know what that means, but it just felt like
you don't know
a long time.
Liar.
Okay, boy, Betsy, you chose a heck of a day to come back
I know.
because you talk about a busy news day. Mm-hmm. The Big Ten announced it is postponing its fall sports season, and of course that means football, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, we now know who Joe Biden's running mate will be.
That is, it is Senator Kamala Harris. If the pair would be elected, Harris would be the nation's first Black and first Asian American vice president. Biden had promised to pick a woman as his running mate. Harris currently serves on several committees, including the Homeland Security and Government Affairs committees. She was also the California Attorney General. Now today, Joe Biden tweeted, "I have the great honor to announce that I've picked a fearless fighter for the little guy and one of the country's finest public servants as a running mate." Our digital anchor, Stephanie Haney, joins us now. And Stephanie, Biden's decision is getting, obviously, a lot of talk online.
It sure is, Betsy. And former Vice President Joe Biden definitely took his time making this call. So when the news came out, reaction came very quickly to Senator Kamala Harris being named as his vice presidential running mate. Now, as we said, Biden did promise to pick a woman to run with, and people were happy to see him keep his word. Shannon Stark had her Kamala Harris, the Future is Female mug ready to go, calling her selection the best news ever. This person, a longtime California resident, said Harris was great in her role as District Attorney of San Francisco, and even though they're surprised with this pick, they are very happy about it. But not everyone likes Harris's record as a prosecutor. Trevor Thacker says that no one has hurt the Black community more than Harris and Biden together, and guessed that this choice made for a lot of happy conservative voters. Others, though, are motivated by the Biden-Harris ticket. This Twitter user says she will personally make sure every member of their family votes in November because of this announcement. Now, there were definitely some who were questioning the call, but the overwhelming majority of the posts that I saw talking about this online today, very excited about this and all of the potential firsts that Harris would represent if they do win, Betsy.
Well, of course, the big deciding factor is going to be coming up in November, so we'll see what the voters have to say about it. Thanks a lot, Stephanie.
All right, Bets, now to some breaking sports news. The Big Ten, well, they have decided that they will not be playing a fall sports schedule, and that, of course, means football. The Big Ten voting today to postpone its entire fall sports season. Late this afternoon, conference leaders announced they are postponing the season to protect the players. The league said it will continue to evaluate several options, including the possibility of competing this coming spring. Ohio State released a statement saying that all student athletes on scholarship will keep their scholarships. They'll also have access to training facilities and will receive tutoring and other services provided by the Student Athlete Support Services Office. Betsy, safety absolutely has to come first here, and that's the way most of these decisions are being made. But there today are countless college athletes that are simply heartbroken, particularly those that are entering their senior and final season in athletics. For many of them, this would have been their goodbye to competitive athletics. Now they may not get to experience that at all.
Well, and doesn't this shove everything down the line after that? Because how can we have a draft without this season? And, if that's going on at the same time, that gets very complex.
It really does. And Jimmy and I talked about this earlier. I'm not sure how a spring season would play out. Likely, you're not going to start playing football outside again until the weather breaks. So just if it ends up being March, and March, as we know, in Big Ten country can be very dicey with snowstorms and whatnot. If it goes March to June, I don't know how these seniors get ready for the draft and then training camps in the NFL within a month.
Right.
It's going to be interesting to see.
It definitely will, and it's not just football. It's all fall sports.
Yeah, all fall sports. Now, another big talker today, the Cleveland Indians are dealing with a situation after two of its star pitchers violated COVID rules while in Chicago over the weekend. Jimmy, this is a huge story with big implications. What can you tell us? What's the latest on it?
Best pitching staff in Major League Baseball, and now 40% of their starting rotation is being quarantined. Zach Plesac and Mike Clevenger. So there's a lot to talk about with the Indians. First of all, they're home, and that's good. Second of all, they're playing the Cubs, and that's always interesting, especially after that great World Series. And then what should be the headline of the day, we got our manager back in the dugout. Tito is ready to go after missing 8 games, though Terry Francona admitted today that health officials and the doctors he's been treating with at the Cleveland Clinic told him, hey, listen, you have some health issues you have to take better care of, and he's certainly going to do that, and we hope that he does. But the big story is what happened in Chicago over the weekend and the 2 pitchers who broke team rules and Major League Baseball COVID protocol rules. Zach Plesac pitched on Saturday and was very, very good. He got the win, and he was so excited he left the team hotel and went out with friends on Saturday night. And then we found out yesterday that Mike Clevenger, who was scheduled to pitch tonight against the Cubs, he was part of the party with Plesac on Saturday night. He went out too, but the problem with Clevenger was the Indians didn't find that out until after he was with them all night on Sunday night in a long night of baseball in Chicago, and then flew home with the team. Both have been put on baseball's restricted list, meaning they are off the roster right now, and they don't count against the roster size of 28, and they're under quarantine. Chris Antonetti did not want to go into any kind of specific punishments.
But we felt it was the right thing to do. As we said from the beginning, I mean, even if you go back down to March 13th, we will continue to prioritize the health and wellness of our players and staff. And based upon the behaviors of, Zach and Clev, we felt that they had an elevated level of risk. And so we wanted to make sure we were doing what we could do to protect the rest of our group.
All right, Jay, there's a couple of layers to this that are really disturbing, especially on the Clevenger front. I mean, the players knew the rules, so both of them put their teammates, their coaches, all of the staff in a little bit of peril by leaving the bubble that the Indians created in Chicago when they were on the road. The other problem I have with the Clevenger part of the story is this. He sat in a team meeting that they had on Sunday afternoon to address the Plesac situation, what happened on Saturday night, and never offered up the fact that he was out with him too. So he sat there and was with the team all night long for an extra inning ball game and a game that had a long rain delay, and then flew home with the team. I think that's just really unacceptable by that player.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects the locker room dynamics. Jimmy, you know so much of that is based on trust, and this is a serious problem. I read a lot of speculation here now, but there was some speculation online from fans and whatnot that maybe he should even be discussed in trade talks. I don't know how you do that right now, but this is certainly not a good situation for Clevenger or the Indians. We'll have to keep an eye on whether or not either of the two test positive. Jimmy, thanks. We will see you ahead at 6 o'clock. Well, it is time now for you to show us something good. This one comes all the way from California. A group of high school football players were hiking Mission Peak, Betsy, and on their way down the mountain, they met a man named Philippe who was struggling to reach the top in his wheelchair. He asked the team, hey, can you help me get up this steep path? I really want to get to the top of this mountain. And they did. And when they got up to the top, they posed for pictures together. And you know the saying that comes to mind right there, Bets? Teamwork makes the dream work.
Right?
Look at that picture.
Talk about serendipity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's struggling on his way up. Yeah. Who better to see than a football team who can grab him and get him up to the top of the mountain?
Absolutely, and they work together so well already.
Right.
They needed maybe a little extra workout.
Yeah, and well, hopefully that will help the football team sort of bond together. I don't know whether or not they'll play football this fall, but it may help them bond together nonetheless.
It's a good story nonetheless.
It is. It made me smile. And don't forget, we want you to show us something good, and it's very easy to do. To submit pictures or video, you just go to that 3 News app, click on the orange bar, and then fill out the form. Give us the details of the story, send it to 3 News, and who knows, you may see yourself on What's New.
We all love hearing good news, certainly. Well, I'll tell you what, coming up, some more good news. There are rumors that Shia LaBeouf is going to join the Marvel Universe. Which movie? What role? We'll tell you what's new. There it is, the music you've been waiting for. It's time now for Pop Break. And Steve Irwin's daughter is expecting her first child. X-Men might be getting a reboot. I have all the details in today's Pop Break. The America's Got Talent judging panel is going to look a little different this week after Judge Simon Cowell broke his back over the weekend. Longtime friend Kelly Clarkson announced that she has agreed to step in for the AGT judge and is assuring fans that she's going to hold it down. Clarkson posted a memo on Instagram writing, "No worries, America. Someone far wiser, cooler, and hotter is taking his seat." Now, we're not going to pick a side here, but we are going to say we can't wait to watch. Shia LaBeouf is reportedly in talks to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe after a 2-year hiatus from Hollywood. The Honey Boy writer and Peanut Butter Falcon actor is being eyed to portray the role of Iceman in the upcoming X-Men reboot. It was reported that Shia could join the MCU years ago when the studio was looking to have him play Moon Knight, but that unfortunately never came to fruition. The actor, however, has been incredibly vocal in the past about his dislike working on big studio films, so we're going to have to wait and see how this one turns out. And there's a new wildlife lover coming to the world in 2021. Bindi Irwin has announced that she and husband Chandler Powell are expecting their first child together. The Dancing with the Stars champ shared the incredible news on social media Tuesday, and Bindi's mom was quick to express her happiness as well. Terry took to Twitter to congratulate her daughter, writing, "While I wish that Steve was here to share this beautiful moment, I know that he would be so proud." They've become a special family worldwide. Certainly have, and I have to tell you, based on what I've been seeing on my Instagram feed, there are going to be a lot of announcements post-quarantine about babies coming. Oh. There is a baby boom that's going to be happening.
Well, you can kind of understand it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's stuck at home.
Yep.
Not a whole lot going on. Next thing you know.
It's cold out there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what,
right.
somebody who is a trendsetter in that department, because obviously, you know, they're getting ready to have their baby, next week now? So Matt and Stephanie, they thought this through way back, 10 months ago, way before
they're ahead of the rush.
Pandemic. Yeah, they're way ahead of things. So obviously, Matt, you'd kind of have to step in on this one, most likely. Matt?
A glass of wine, is that what it was?
Are you blushing?
just no, not at all. Not at all. Absolutely not. We're just we're very happy, very blessed parents. Let's just say that. You know, Betsy and Jay, my entire family's sleeping right now. Mama fell asleep because she's just exhausted, which is very understandable. But Emmy and River are both sleeping. This is amazing. I don't know what to do with myself. Can I come to the station and just hang out for a little bit? This is daddy freedom.
Do you want me to do weather for you so you can have a 30 seconds of just quiet? I totally will.
He's gone.
I have the clicker.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm totally willing to step in. I get it.
I know you will. Listen, I made some graphics that are completely out of whack, so I don't want to subject you to that. But overall, I really appreciate that. You've always been there for me. So anyway, so this will be great over the next half hour or so. Let's talk temperatures because it's going to start to warm up. Yeah, we've had the heat come and go over the last couple days after that fall-like taste we got last week, but those temps are going to start building as we go throughout the rest of the week. Tomorrow's our cooler spot. We'll have some drier air moving in here, and then we climb the steps up towards Saturday where we're going to reach near 90 degrees again. So in terms of number of 90-degree days this year, just checking in, we average 9 per summer. We've had 14 so far in 2020, so we are above average in terms of 90s. Keep in mind, last year we had 20 90-degree days, so we're not quite there yet. But from here on out, I did a little digging, and we average only 2 more 90-degree days from here until the rest of the summer and early fall. And our average last 90 is actually coming up, August 20th. So how about that? But the problem is, things don't always go by average. That's why we call it average. I hate to call it normal because it's never normal around here. Your high temperatures today, we didn't have any 90s out there, but some hot spots. Akron, New Philly at 88 degrees. Youngstown made it to 86. You see Cleveland making it up to 85 degrees. And we're still pretty mild out there. But we're dry. We're watching a couple growing cumulonimbus clouds out towards the islands, Put-in Bay. Get ready for some downpours. But overall, this is going to be few and far between this evening as the bulk of the action is headed down to the south with yesterday's derecho. All that energy is kind of shut off the Gulf of Mexico. So believe it or not, we have a cold front that's going through. Now, the dry air tends to lag. The cold front will go through this time of year. The dry air doesn't arrive till a day later. So we're still in the humidity outside, but looking just off to our north, look at Chicago. They got hit hard with storms yesterday. They've got a dew point of 51. That is some seriously comfortable air coming in from Michigan, and that should arrive at least in the northern half of our area tomorrow. Your National Design Mart hour-by-hour forecast, mainly dry tonight. Can't rule out an isolated shower. Other than that, we're going to be waking up to a mix of clouds and sun. And there you go, tomorrow afternoon, a nice breeze out of the north, drier air by the hour, high temperatures in the low 80s area-wide, and that should set the stage for a beautiful Wednesday evening around here. Universal Windows Direct 7-day forecast. There's our climb to 90 degrees. It looks dry all the way through Saturday at this point. Our next decent chance of rain around here is Sunday, but keep in mind there's going to be some rain close by, so can't rule out a stray storm Friday and Saturday. All right, guys, I'm going to quickly toss it back to you because I'm going to go to enjoy some freedom.
Good for you. Enjoy.
And
we'll see you at 7.
Whisper. Keep them sleeping. Matt, thank you. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Northeast Ohio native Stipe Miocic is getting back in the ring this weekend. He has a bold prediction ahead of his championship fight. We'll hear it next.
And who would you rather quarantine with? Your significant other or your pet? Results are in, and we have the answers on the other side of the break.
Than the United States. We also have fewer deaths per capita, excluding the disastrous deaths from
Well, couples were forced to spend a lot of quality time together when states shut down in March. Now, aside from the whole baby boom discussion we just had, the new verdict is out, and a lot of women would rather quarantine with their pet rather than their significant other. It's true. According to the company Freshpet, now keep in mind it is a pet company that did the study here, 44% of women would choose to quarantine with their cat or dog if there was another lockdown and they could only pick one companion. Now on to the men. 47% of males say they would choose their significant other. I was actually kind of surprised by that. I thought the guys would be like, yeah, I'm going to choose the dog or the cat. But they actually chose the ladies.
Can't have both, huh?
Other. Yeah.
That's a terrible game to play.
I know.
One
now,
or the
you're
other.
technically not allowed to have a say in this because, of course, you have your schmoopy love affair with your wife since college, and you have 2 pets.
But I have
Everybody
to say,
gets along.
Everyone gets along, but I would, I love my dogs. Don't get me wrong. But I would choose wifey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's just common sense, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know,
I don't have a pet, so I don't get a say.
Yeah.
I would choose my significant other.
You avoided that one.
What?
No, well
I don't
done.
know what you're talking about.
Absolutely well played.
Well, 80% of pet parents said spending time with their pets during the lockdown improved their overall mood. That's true. I can see that.
I'll second that.
Yep.
There is no doubt about it. There were days where my dogs just were the highlight of my day. Okay, big doings this weekend. Many are looking at this weekend's UFC fight as the biggest fight in history, and it will happen Saturday night in an empty arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's when Cleveland native Stipe Miocic will climb into the octagon to face Daniel Cormier for the 3rd and final time. Cormier took the first fight, stealing Stipe's world title, but Miocic won it back with a knockout of Cormier last year. Stipe plans to come in right at 230 pounds, same as he did before, but he says he is in much better shape and he feels confident. So this is it. This is the one that everyone will remember because it is the rubber match, and we're going to know who is the true champion after this one.
Well, it's going to be me.
You're confident?
Oh, yeah. Got to be. But I know. Listen, I've trained so hard. I have the best coaches, best teammates in the world. I'm going to go out there and do what I do. I'm going to walk out with the belt still wrapped around my waist, hearing and still.
You feel comfortable predicting a victory?
Oh, yeah.
I'm very comfortable. Betsy told me he's not going to be an idiot this time around. He won't wait as long as he did the last fight to get aggressive. Said he's coming out hot. We'll see what happens.
I have to think it's going to be very weird for them when they're in the ring and there's not like the crazy chaotic shouting that they're so used to. Are they going to pipe in sound, I wonder?
Well, no, they're not. And Stipe actually said he doesn't need a crowd. He gets amped enough on his own.
Right.
And he said that this is actually a good thing for him because he always struggles through the crowd sound to hear what his manager and his coach are telling him. It's going to be easy this time because there'll be no crowd sound to fight through. It's going to be a big one, and it's Saturday night. We'll talk to him all week long leading up to this fight with his thoughts. We're going to wrap up What's New when we come back. Stay with us.
Hey, mic check again. Romney Smith. It's Tuesday. We're talking about Senator Kamala Harris being tapped to be the Democratic VP. Okay.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4.
Hey, mic check. We begin with history made tonight. Senator, thank you.
We wrap it up with our Worth the Watch. We're going to Australia, Bets. His name's Nick Rudd, and look at this thing.
What?
You got to see it twice. First ping pong ball hits the cup. It starts the tape roll going down the table, and he hits a second ball that goes right through the moving hole in that tape deal.
This is one of those that's filed under, like, at what point do you think of this?
And you know, his mom has probably told him his whole life, you know, there's no money in this, son. But he's got like 500,000 followers on YouTube.
Making
Now, what
money
that's
now.
worth, I don't know. But
It's very